Oh, I already got a love. All right. Well, hello, everyone. It's your girl, Gabrielle. Welcome to a brand new episode of Hot Topics. Let me tell you what this show is about in case you are new to the show or maybe you forgot. Well, I'm just going to remind you. So, this is the show where we like to have real talk about real things. We like to talk about a lot of different social issues, educational issues. We like to talk about homeschooling, disabilities, robots taking our jobs, self care, all that mushy gushy stuff. But all of that is in the name of education, as we are a part of my tutoring company, a Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So there's an educational lens to all of these topics that we do for you here on the show. And today is no different. So I'm looking forward to this topic. So let me tell you what the topic is today. So the topic today is the gamification of education. I know that is a mouthful, but we're going to be talking about um, using games, using fun activities as a means to teach kids. So we're going to be talking about that. And my guest who's going to help me out, let me tell you who he is. His name is Dr. Ronald Shapiro. And let me tell you, he has his company is called Education by Entertainment TV. And he he does game show style program that shows people more about how they think they can be safer, more productive, and better communicators. His programs are perfect for businesses, schools, and social events, and they are a ton of fun. So I'm looking forward to that conversation. So let me go ahead and bring him to the stage. Hi, Dr. Shapiro. How are you doing today?
Fine, thanks. How are you, Gabrielle?
Good, good, good. For those of you watching online, Dr. Shapiro's having some camera issues, so you're just looking at his picture right now. So it's sort of like he's anonymous in a way. So I just wanted to just point that out there for those of you watching. All right, Dr. Shapiro, thank you for taking the time to come on my show. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, so let's dive right into it. So we're going to talk about the gamification of education. So this is what you built your whole company on. So I wanted to talk about the meat of it, which is using games to teach kids lessons. So can you talk about the importance of that? Why is it important? You know, why gamify education?
Sure, be happy to. Well, we want people to remember things. We want them to remember what we were teaching. We want them to remember it forever. And so, what we want them to do is to have vivid visual and auditory examples of what we are doing. One of my friends once said, we want material to pass from your brain to the brain of the students without passing through the notebooks of either one. That was somebody by the name of Gene Fox that I worked with years ago. And we are very much interested in doing just that. What we offer is game show programs. They're all in person, and they're designed to show people more about what they think, as Gabriel said, so they can be safer, more productive, and better communicators. We also want them to be a lot of fun. We typically, if we're doing a program, we'll have, say, 35 games or activities in an hour or an hour and a half program. And we offer our programs for everyone from business people to schools, conferences, conventions, birthday parties, the whole bit. And the idea is, again, to give people vivid examples, science based, to show them more about how they think, to improve their lives, basically, make them safer, more productive, better communicators. Thanks, Gabrielle.
Thank you for that. So I wanted to kind of dive. Can we talk more about the science of
Sure.
using games? So what is it about, what's wrong with the typical educational style of the lecture hall or just straight talking. What's wrong with that? Why use games?
I'm not sure that there's anything wrong with it per se. It's been around for hundreds of years and will probably be around for hundreds more. However, people sometimes don't engage with it and they don't remember. If I were to go on and talk for the next hour or so, you'd probably remember about 3 or 4 points, maybe 6 points that I made at most. And the idea here is we want to essentially cover less, but in more detail, so you'll remember it longer. So I don't want to be critical of my friends and colleagues that lecture. I do it sometimes myself. But when we do have the examples, people will remember it longer. And also, people will be more attracted to what we're doing. If I'm at a convention hall, for example, with open doors in the back of the room, if I have activities going on, people are more likely to drop in and see what's going on than if I'm standing there and lecturing. If I'm standing there and lecturing, probably nobody is going to drop in. They'll say, oh, another lecture and move on to the next room. If I have people on stage with me, they're quite likely to say, oh, what's he doing? What's going on? Attract attention. And if I have someone on stage with me blindfolded, they're really likely to say, what's going on there? I want to stick around and see what this is all about. So again, it's partially to get people's attention and then partially to help them remember what we've gone over. And we can get testimonials 10, 15 years later showing people still remember what we've done.
So it sounds like it's a processing thing, and that you know if 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 you use more activities that are engaging, that use more brain activity, that's fun, people are more likely to remember things as opposing to talking for a long time.
Right, they're more likely to come in the first place if they see activities, or if they see the word games in my abstract. If I'm doing a conference or convention, that little 100-word abstract that's been around forever. If I say we're going to have lots of games, I'll attract far more people than if I don't do that. So it's good for attracting people. It's attracting people going down the hallway. It then gives people a visual, so they're more likely to pay attention during the program rather than going to their phones or their notebooks or falling asleep or whatever else people might do. And then also it gives them a visual or an activity to remember for a long period of time to associate with. So those are the advantages of it, at least in terms of the programs that I do.
Right. So you'll get more engagement, more people will show up,
Right.
especially if things are fun. People are more likely to participate. People will more likely remember it because it's fun and not boring.
Right. And also, there's more opportunities to do things. For example, if I were to say I feel like giving a lecture on human cognition, would you like to invite me to your birthday party? Do you think anybody would? Probably not, right? On
Hmm.
the other hand, if I have a game show that's going to show people a little bit more about how they think, but it's going to be tons of fun, am I going to get invited? Quite possibly. So it's yet another way to get a foot in the door to try and show people a little bit more to try and accomplish our goals.
And I do see that, and even in my own tutoring sessions, like um and it might be the way that I process information as well. And like I tend to try to talk less. I use a lot of online activities that are fun because like I with kids, especially young kids, if you just talk and talk and talk, they'll just zone out, right? But if you keep your words shorter, or your sentences shorter, and oh, here's a fun game, or here's a interactive activity, something that's it I mean, using more brain activity, but something that they'll enjoy. I find that they're more engaged in my sessions. So
Yeah, it's
I do.
interesting that you say that, and I agree with you completely. The other thing is, some people will, instead of saying especially with young children to begin their sentences, they'll say especially with adult learners. And then they'll say the exact same things that you've said. So it really applies across the board. It's hard to get a bunch of adults to want to pay attention to a lecture at times, and that can be an issue. And again, if we can have some way to attract attention, it helps.
So, do you get criticism for your business model? Like, oh, it's too fun, or it's too many games, or it's not enough education behind it. Do you get that kind of criticism?
I'm thinking about that. We do give out prizes, and one parent once wrote on one of our comment cards, "Too many toys." So I guess we did get that criticism at one point. There are going to be some people that like things and some that don't like things, no matter what you do. But by and large, we get a lot of very positive comments. And I put together, and I believe I sent to you, a word cloud showing our comments that we collect from people at the end of our sessions. And I'm not going to say there's no negative stuff in there, because there is, but it sure is hard to find if you look at all our comments over the course of a year. I'm sure that we would find criticism. I expected to find far more than I did. When I first started bringing this to conferences and conventions, I thought that there would be just no way people would like it. And I didn't even want to do it, to be honest with you. On the other hand, colleagues talked me into it, and it became a big hit. In my division at a major conference, I will either be the second fullest rooms or the fullest rooms for my division every time I bring this to a conference or convention. I'll attract more people. And again, the comments are overwhelmingly, but not 100% positive, to candidly answer your question.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that is realistic. You're gonna have people that leave negative comments and people who leave positive comments, but I think what it comes down to is how many more do you have of each side, and it sounds like you have more positive than negative.
Right. If you take a look at the word clouds, that's what it shows. And what I mean by the word clouds, let me explain that process to people. If
Yes.
you're doing an hour or 2 hour presentation, it's unreasonable to have a 20-page questionnaire. Please evaluate this speaker and so forth. So, what is reasonable? I decided that what was reasonable for a relatively short program was to ask people for a one-word summary of the program. I pass out business card stock, not necessarily a business card, but business card stock at the beginning of my programs. At the end, I just ask people to summarize the program in one word and throw it into a fishbowl. And then we type them all out, and we put them into a computer program that makes them bigger if more people said it. So my most popular word for the past 5 years has been fun. So that would be the biggest one in the word cloud. And then all the others are progressively smaller, and so on. As I said, there are some in there that are not positive, but you need a magnifying glass to find them, just because the positive ones overwhelm the negative ones. And the interesting thing is, people tend to use the same words most of the time when they provide the feedback. We're also glad to get comments, sent to us by email or orally or whatever, but we are asked for the one-word summary. By the way, if you're running a program for a business, instead of passing out business stock, we ask people to throw their business card in with the word on the back. And that way we have a mailing list that we've put together as well. Thank you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. As you were talking, I work with a lot of kids, but I mean, you bring up an interesting point about adults, and that we keep thinking when it comes to using games to facilitate a class or facilitate some sort of workshop, it's we automatically think children, right? People 17 and under, or not even teenagers, like, maybe like 13 and under. But you bring up an interesting point, like you can still use games and fun activities for the older teenagers, for college students, for the adults, because it's all about engagement, it's all about participation, it's all about fun and memory. And I would think it's would benefit adults more than it would kids, because adults are less likely to remember things than kids do. So anything that would facilitate any kind of memory retention, it's it's good for adults, and I think games are a way to do that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Just for historical interest, I started out at the college level doing my programs. Then I moved to the industry, and then I started moving backwards by grade level, and now I'm down to grade 3. And I don't think I'll go lower by design, although you get surprised all the time with people who show up that are awfully small to be in grade 3. And we have some activities that we can put in there, but that's not our focus. If you're really interested in something for first graders primarily, I have some other ideas that are more suitable. But if you want to do a family program and we have some kindergartners come in, that's fine too. My youngest ever was 3 weeks old, but I'm not sure how much she learned.
Hmm. That might be tough for that kind of age. Um, and so, and just another thought I had in my head about, going back to my own tutoring sessions, how I use a lot of like computer games. Um, just the websites themselves, the way that they're structured, like Khan Academy. Like whenever you get a question right, there's like a burst of confetti, right?
Yeah,
And there's like there's a bell sound, like I don't know how to say it, but there's a when you get a question right, there's a bell sound
right.
and there's a burst of confetti, right?
Yeah,
And those are, you want to, I mean, it's conditioning, it's operant conditioning, because you want students to get more questions right. And so whenever you get more questions right, there's that bell sound and there's that burst of confetti, right? Um, I excel. I mean, they don't have those things, but whenever you get a question right, you'll see these messages pop up. Good job, fantastic, you're doing great, keep up the good work, right? So all of that is all like little things like that. It's encouraging the students to do more. It's getting them to do the same thing over and over again, which is getting questions right, which is what you want. So it's all conditioning. It's all behavior modification.
as long as you don't go overboard with it, it's great. One could go overboard with it too, of course. And, people could just get bored with all that, the bells and whistles and so on if they just go on for too long. But sure, I mean, having some of that can be fun. The other thing is some people think, well, I didn't do that great. Why are you saying I did this great? It's too obvious, too easy, and so forth. This isn't worth it. So it's a matter of balancing and knowing when to have that kind of feedback that you described and when not to. Having it all the time is not the right answer.
Well, I mean, yeah, like if you get a question wrong, they'll just say, they'll just have you do it over again. Like you won't see the bells and whistles when you
Right, right.
get something wrong, but it's not like they do it all the time. But you bring up an interesting point, and if you wouldn't mind diving into that about going overboard, what does that mean, going overboard?
Going overboard, just if somebody just keeps on getting, oh, this is fantastic, this is great, this is absolutely the best thing ever, and it simply is something very routine, people are going to say this doesn't have credibility. Even young kids are going to say this doesn't have credibility. And that can be a
Mm.
problem. And so I don't have a magic formula for you, but if you were developing some sort of online learning, or if you even just trying to do some parenting and stuff, it's a good idea to try and work out what seems to make sense. When is somebody going well overboard, and when are they just doing kind of what's expected, what's the norm, and so forth. In which case, just okay, we're moving on. Correct is different than having a big celebration because you just said 1 and 1 equals 2, and you're in 5th grade. A type of thing. So,
Mm-hmm.
it all needs to be tested and planned and so forth, because I know of no formula that's guaranteed to work. Although obviously, with having the right experience, having the right education behind you and stuff, you're going to get a better start than if you don't have it.
Right, and I mean, I do agree. You need a balance, right? So you don't want to like overpraise, right? You don't want to praise too much because then, you know, I keep thinking kids, but just kids will just, or anybody really will just be like, okay, whatever, this isn't, I'm just gonna get it right.
Exactly.
But regardless, like there's no challenge, right? But then you don't want to like underpraise either because then they feel hopeless and then they give up, right? So
That's right.
it's a balance.
And that's why they have experts like yourself that are doing this education and so forth. And that's why we get better with more experience.
So tell me about the types of games that you use for your company.
Be happy to. We start by showing a model of human thinking, and it starts with sensation. That's information getting from the environment up to the brain. Then we talk about interpretation, making sense out of that information. Then we go into uh, putting stuff into memory, taking stuff out of memory, learning, making decisions, responding, and then multitasking. Those are all different things we do as we think, as we accomplish things in the world. We start by putting that model up, talking a little bit about it, probably in more detail than I did now, but not a whole lot of detail. And then we go through and have games and activities at each one of these stages, showing what we're really good at, what we could stand to strengthen ourselves, and what we need to compensate for because we're just never going to be really great at it. And that's what our 35 or so games and activities are all about, having some at each stage. Some of them involve the entire audience, some of them involve people coming up on stage and performing as well. So that's our basic model, if you will. And would you like me to talk about some of the specific games and activities?
Yes, please.
Okay, let me start with one on recalling information from memory. I'm going to go a little bit out of order here. What I might ask people to do is to spell spot fast 5 times. S-P-O-T, 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 S-P-O-T. Then I'll immediately ask, what do you do at a green light? And a lot of people, most people, are going to want to say, stop. And they're going to feel, that's right, I got it right. I didn't say spot. But the real answer, as you know, at a green light is that you go. So we'll talk about why is that? And it has to do with electrical conductivity in the brain. And then we'll also talk about what you can do to compensate for that kind of mistake, to not make it. And then we can also talk about how to survive in the world, knowing that others will make mistakes. For example, if we're talking to product designers as opposed to elementary school students, we'd say, okay, we now know that people are going to make mistakes like that. Could they cause problems? Yeah. Can cause someone to get rear-ended in a automobile collision if the driver in back isn't attending to what's going on around them and is just doing, quote, what people should do. So then we get into a discussion about what people should do, what they shouldn't do, what the designer should be able to compensate for, etc., to reduce errors. So that's an example of one of our activities that we do. We go ahead. I think you were starting to say something, Gabrielle.
No, no, no. Go ahead.
Okay, if I'm going to turn to another activity, we want to show people that things take time to do. And you have to allow enough time, something that so many of us don't do. That can be a bunch of high schoolers not allowing enough time to brake in driving a car, to those of us at work that overcommit. And we have an activity that shows what happens when you don't allow enough time. And that is, we'll drop a dollar bill between somebody's fingers and it hits the floor. We tell them to catch it before it hits the floor, and most of the time they will not. And we talk about, well, did we allow enough time? The length of the dollar bill, did that allow enough time to do our task? So there's a second example of what we'll do. We also talk about people adopting, and people can do anything, oftentimes we'll say, and that's not completely true, but people can be very flexible. but we talk about what is reasonable in terms of flexibility. For example, I could ask you to wear glasses that make everything look upside down, and I would do that in the program. I'll tell you that in 3 weeks you could learn to drive with those on and do an acceptable job. But is that reasonable for, let's say, a supervisor at work to say, you're flexible, you can do that? Or do we have to make changes in the work environment? We can also talk about, when we do that, the way the visual system is structured, the fact that everything is on our retina or the back of our eye upside down, and somehow it gets inverted to right side up when we actually perceive it. We can talk about those mechanisms if we want, or we can just talk about the whole idea of how much should people have to adapt. And then we can also do that a teamwork exercise there, where somebody tries to give instructions to people trying the new environment. So those are examples of some of our activities that we do during our programs. Thank you.
And that's fabulous, and all of that is uh it's all about memory retention, it sounds like, and that's one of the things that you hone in on is how long can you, one, being able to recall information, and to recall information over a long period of time.
I agree.
And that's what you focus on. And I believe you it sounds like you use like a game show structure.
That's right. That's
So
exactly what we do.
you do like a game show, like the Family Feuds and the um I know there's
Well,
other shows, it's not
what
coming.
I would typically tell people is if they liked, for example, the Ellen comedy shows in the old days when those were on, where there were a lot of people brought up on stage and so forth, and then a lot of activity for the audience and so forth, that they would like our programs because we have a whole lot of activity put in there uh, for them, and that's the type of format that we use. Uh, and that's what makes it into a game show. We also have prizes and so forth, which also contribute to it being a game show. Our on-stage contestants do not know what they will be doing when they come up on stage, which adds some mystery and some mystique, if you will, to the format there. And we have the audience members cheering them on and so forth, all of which contributes to the game show format, but also underlying all that is what the messages that we're trying to convey, what people learn, etc. And we do have some reviews throughout our programs as well, in that we ask our contestants and our audience members, okay, what did we just demonstrate? Theoretically, how does it apply? And also, how could you possibly use what we just discussed in the real world?
Right. And it's how how you how do you apply what you learned on a bigger scale, right?
That's
So
right. Yeah, that's what I meant by in the real world. Yeah, I agree with you. How does this apply when you go back to your job, when you go back to your classroom, when you go back to your family, when you go back to whatever it is that you're doing?
absolutely. So now, so is it just game shows that the game show structure, or do you also use like cards, or like, well, you don't do anything computerized, right? It sounds like it's all kind of.
Well, I use a computer to project, but I do not do online stuff. And yes, I do have some things that we display that use a computer, but I do not do, again, I don't do it online. I will do hybrid, where my primary program is for the people that are there with me, but other people can watch from wherever they happen to be in the world and can participate in. We'll reference them in and so forth, but I do not do pure online programs. That's right. It just doesn't fit what I do.
Okay,
And
so you're more, because you talked about sensory, so it's more things that you can touch, right?
right.
So something like cards.
Yes, we do have some cards that we do hand out with some of our activities and stuff on them. That is true. And we do have activities people perform with their prisms on, and et cetera, et cetera. So absolutely, yes, there's a lot of hands-on, if that's uh, addressing your question. Absolutely, yes. And could you do it with sending people kits in the mail, or however you'd send them FedEx to work on while you're doing a program online? Probably I could, but I just have not done that. Uh, I did offer during the pandemic, and I did not have a lot of takers on this, to train somebody in each family group or cluster or whatever to be able to do my activities. And I would stay, in my house and observe what they were doing and could drop in the educational comments and so forth. I offered it, did not get much of an uptake at all for that. And that was fine because I don't think that that's the ideal way to present my programs.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it's what works for you and your business.
Right.
And
I'm not going to say that online doesn't work for anybody. It does work. There's no doubt about it. Back years ago, I used to do online. I won a bunch of awards for doing good online programs and so forth. But that's just not what I really want to do. And if I give an audience choice, in most cases, especially in the corporate structure, they'll prefer to be in person. If you talk about school, I mean, everyone wanted to stay home from school and stay in bed all day and do school studies. But now, what are we seeing after the pandemic? People are saying, "I want to be in school." Right? Kids were pleading, "Can I go back to school? I want to be with my friends." And I think this applies to the corporate learning structure as well as the school environment. There's nothing like in person. Now, there are trade offs and so forth that you're making along the way. And where you draw your line for trade offs, it depends on what you can afford, depends on you know the pandemic state in the country or the world. Depends on a whole lot of factors. There's no doubt about that. Do I think there's a place for online? Yeah. If I want to know how to repair my faucet, I certainly don't want to go to a week's online training on how to repair a faucet. I'm glad to watch a 3-minute YouTube video. It beats the old printed instructions that I used to get. So for that, sure, online is good. Do I think that online is the best way to train somebody to be a manager? No. Do I think you can teach somebody how to do, their time cards online if you still have those? Yes. So it just all depends what you're trying to accomplish as to what format to use. If you're conveying just factual information and that's all you're trying to do, probably the online format will work fairly well. We have a new drug out there, pharmacists, and you need to know these things. A book would work as well, but online may be more interactive and a little bit better than sending out the book. Do I think it's a great way to train somebody to be a clinician for in person clinical work? No. Do I think you can do some of your learning that way? Yes. So it just this day and age, it's all a matter of what is the right mix. What do people want? What can be afforded?
and of course, and it's there are some circumstances where the online sh- structure can work, right?
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
circumstances where in person would work, right? There's some circumstances where it's better to be hands on and actually touching and using the five senses, right? Being able to see things, touch things, hear things. But there's other circumstances where maybe it's more convenient to just watch a YouTube video, like you said. So it all depends on the circumstance. It depends on the person. So
Right. And
it
then there's hybrid too. Uh, there's nothing like getting together in person. I was just, as a matter of fact, right before we were on, listening to a department chair of the psychology department of a school in Arizona talking about how the online is really working for them, for the as a replacement for the in person, for students that absolutely cannot make it to campus. It's just not going to happen. They're all asynchronous too, because the people can't even commit to the same times of day for their classes. But on the other hand, they have a lot of in-person interaction other than, listening to recorded lectures and stuff, which can be done online. I mean, if you're going to sit into an auditorium with 500 other people and take notes, is there a real difference between that and online? Maybe, maybe not. But they're saying they have a lot of opportunity for interaction other than the lectures. There's more opportunity to discuss and so forth. And they do that, albeit not in person, personally, having discussions and stuff. And, that works for some environment. Would it be better if they were all in person? I would argue yes. But, it's all a matter of trade offs.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now, okay, so in terms of what you do, so just to kind of go back, so you use a lot of um like, I guess, game show. So you said you don't do kids? I'm sorry. Like,
Grade three up.
you do three kids, like you
Well,
said.
grade three up, third grade in school. I
Oh,
do
third
third
grade kids.
grade, right? Kids from grade three up to professional.
All right. And what kind of things, I didn't even ask you, what subjects do you focus on?
Oh, when I'm dealing with the high school, biology and psychology are two of the primary course areas that I work with. When I'm working with elementary school, it's, you know, just elementary school is elementary school. So there isn't that much focus on, the psychology teacher versus the biology teacher. And what I talk about there, again, it's all human thinking and how people think. But I'll relate it to their reading and their math and their art and whatever other things they may be doing in their elementary or middle school classrooms.
So you, from third grade to adults, so you do like math, you do reading,
Yep. Yep.
history, science,
Well, more science than history, but yes.
more science. Okay, and um, so it's like the core subjects. Do you do like social studies? Do you do writing?
Yes, writing. And there's an interesting thing about social studies, and that is that if you were to go to, let's say, a high school, the psychology teachers are almost all, if not all, social studies teachers that are teaching psychology. In most, if not all states, if you want to teach high school psychology, having a psychology degree will not qualify you to do it. You need a social studies degree. Sounds weird, but that's just the way it works. So, with the social studies degree and very limited training in psychology, you can teach psychology. With extensive training in psychology and no social studies degree, you probably will not get certified. So, that's just an interesting side note for you. And so, yes, I do social studies, but it's primarily working with the psychology classes that the social studies teachers are teaching.
Ah, okay. And I mean, do you have like the typical, like the old school games, like the crossword puzzles or word searches or fill in the blanks?
Well, my games and activities come from psychology demonstrations and psychology experimentation. Uh, if you were to take an introductory psychology class at a college, you would see some of the games and activities that I use there. And you would be able to match most, if not all, of the games and activities that I do back to the psychology curriculum.
So your games are, there's research behind it.
Yes.
Okay, so tell us more about that.
Well, there is, yeah, if you were to take again your intro psych book, you will notice there are chapters on how people think, how people perceive, how people learn, how people remember, physiology, how the nervous system is constructed, and so forth. And our activities map back to all of those topics, at least for the activities that we do for schools and for businesses. You can map them back to those topics. Social study, social psychology can match some of our activities back to how people get along in groups and stuff. Again, everything, or at least almost everything, in one way or another relates to a psychology experiment or experiments that were done at one point or another in the last 100 years.
Okay.
You mentioned conditioning before. We have
Yeah.
some activities that relate to conditioning that demonstrate both classical as well as operant conditioning, paired associate learning, that kind of thing, as part of our activities.
So so for the college level classes like psychology, sociology, you also have games as well.
Yep. And in most cases, they're the same ones I'd use in the elementary school, just different words to explain.
Interesting, interesting. So I think it kind of pushes the idea that, adults like games too, right? Because I think because we live in such a gamified culture, like we still play the board games. And when we go to like the family barbecues or someone's birthday party, there's always a game. Or when we go to a baby shower or a bridal shower or a bachelor party, bachelorette party, there's always some sort of game that you're playing, right? So we live in such a gamified culture. So it's all about thinking like a child. And so when you have these intense educational courses like psychology and sociology and biology, and especially at the college level or in the professional level, you still, it sounds like you're still introducing games into it so that they can better retain that information.
Right. I can tell you that I've done the same activity with physicists at one of the leading physicist organizations in the world, research laboratories, that I've done with third graders. And by the way, the physicists don't outperform the third graders in some of the activities.
Also, you have activities for physics as well, college physics.
Well, I've done activities with physicists. I would not say I'm the college physics department person at all, but I've done psychology type programs for physicists.
And how did they take it?
Went very well. Went very well when I was out there. They thought it was funny. They were smiling a lot, laughing, that kind of stuff. Just like any other people, except they're very brilliant people. They didn't perform any better than typical people would. But, I mean, once they went back to their labs, I'm sure they were doing stuff that I would never understand, linear acceleration stuff. But in any case, while they were with my programs, they were just like anybody else.
Right. So,
People are
it's
people.
not, games are not just for kids, it's for adults too.
Exactly. Now, when we do some of the parody type events, we do throw in a couple of games that probably I would not be able to map back to the psychology curriculum. But we try and keep it as much as we can to things that would map back. But we have a few just fun, wild and crazy fun activities we throw into.
Mm. This is all, it's interesting when you really think about it. And like even um like when I teach Sunday school, we like to again, I know it's a lot of kids, but you know we um we like to use like crossword puzzles and word searches. And a big one is, well, even for the adults, any kind of religious instruction, even just look online. I think a big one is like taboo, right? So I don't know if you've heard of taboo, but taboo is a big one when it comes to religious instruction. um Another one is, now there's a new game called Password. um so it's like they're mimicking the TV shows. And
Okay. I'm
yeah,
not familiar with either of those, but okay.
yeah, so I'm just thinking like with like thinking of like my church and how any kind of religious instruction, there's a lot of like play on the game shows. So there's the Family Feud, there's the Password, um, and even like the board games, like there's the Taboo. There's well, I can't really think of anything else, but it's just taboos all I'm thinking of. But when it comes to like religious instruction or classroom instruction or even college is a lot of as a way to facilitate learning. There's a lot of like play on the board games that are out there and the game shows that are out there.
Absolutely right. And some of them relate back to the subject matter being taught in the case that you mentioned, religion, and others I've noticed just from seeing stuff on the internet and so forth that's church related is just a bunch of fun activities that they do after their instruction or before or whatever, just to attract the youth group or whatever. Uh, that's what I've observed in some of the videos. Some of it, I'm sure, does relate to the religious instruction as well. When we do our programs, we try to have most of our activities uh, relate back to what our education, as opposed to, well, we're going to have a game program after class type of thing.
Right, and it's
So
and
that's where we may be a little
predicting.
different. Yeah, another analogy people might draw is trying to compare us with a magician. We are not magicians at all, but in terms of program, we want people when they leave to understand everything we've done, how we've done it, why we've done it, and to be able to replicate it if they want to, with friends, family, whatever. Whereas your magician goes just the opposite way, and they don't want people to know what they've done, basically, just to leave impressed. So we're educators more than entertainers, but I'm not going to say we're not entertainers.
And so it's just you're teaching in a fun way.
That's what we try to do.
All right, this is a fabulous conversation, but I'm gonna start to wind things down. So now it's I like to. I'm trying to think of what I'm trying to say. Um, it's just before I get to the words of wisdom, like it's really fascinating that because I myself like I can't sit through a 2 hour lecture. Like I just keep going back to college and sitting through the 2 hour lectures and zoning out, right? Because it's too much information being thrown at me. And it's just I end up daydreaming and falling asleep, like like just kind of thinking back to my college days. But if if professors had more fun activities, they had more games, they had a family feud or something like that, would definitely would have engaged me more. It could have kept me alert. It would have, I'm sure there's going to be the few people that are like, okay, this is college, why are you doing this? These are for kids, not adults, but you're saying, hey, adults appreciate it too, and some adults think like kids, right?
Yeah,
So I'm sure like if I played some more family feud or cards or something during college, that would have kept me alert a lot more.
I've got a couple anecdotes for you on that one. I used to teach when I was at Ohio State every day, 50 minutes a day, 5 days a week. The Ohio State legislature, in its infinite wisdom, decided to have University College on Saturday. The idea was a good one. Adults, and it was before this real emphasis on adult learning. And the idea was let's have the adults come to campus one day a week, Saturday morning, and we'll give them 250 minutes worth of education. So they strung five 50-minute classes together, 250 minutes, no breaks. How's that? And I'm sure everybody, including myself, would have gone to sleep if I didn't bring in a lot of games and activities. And so that kind of helped me in my own development of programs like this. Just, like what would I do in that 250-minute class? And yes, I had some quizzes and exams and stuff built in, but I also tried to have activities every hour of some sort or another just to help people attend. Moving to another anecdote, several years ago, I had a person come in at a psychologist convention, and say, I hope I don't go to sleep on you, but I just drove in overnight, and I am just exhausted. I said, don't worry, you will never fall asleep in my program. Brought her up on stage several times. She was great to work with, and no, she didn't fall asleep. And I got a really nice set of comments from her afterwards, too. We kept in touch for several years, and I think we're still connected on LinkedIn. So there's a couple more anecdotes to support what you're saying.
Thank well, thank you. I appreciate that. At least I don't feel alone.
No, no, not at all. Not at all. The more activity you bring in, the better off you'll be. And that's where we come in. I'll guarantee you wouldn't fall asleep during my programs.
Awesome, awesome. Good to hear. All right, we're gonna bring it back now. So I like to ask my guests if they have any words of wisdom that they'd like to share. So Dr. Shapiro, do you have any words of wisdom that you'd like to impart on our audience?
Yes, if you move into any kind of management role, supervisory role, parenting role, whatever, develop your people. All else will follow. Emphasize developing your people more than project goals, more than anything, and you will be successful.
Beautiful, beautiful. Straight to the point. Perfect. All right. Well, Dr. Shapiro, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate you being here.
It's been a pleasure being here. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Of course, of course. All right. So we're going to go ahead and jump to your promo. All right. So, Dr. Ron Shapiro, you can find him all over the web. He has a lot of information, you guys. So, make sure you pay attention. So, I have four websites up here. So, you can learn more about his business, his games. One website is www.educationbyentertainment.com. He has another website called www.suggestionsforbirthdays.com. Then he has another website, which is his personal site, which is www.drronshapiro.com if you want to learn more about him personally. And the fourth website is www.educationalgames.fun, right? It's all about that fun. So I encourage you guys to visit all of his websites to learn more about him and his business. Maybe you're looking for some games or activities to engage your child or engage your teenager or even your college students, right? Or maybe you're professional and you're trying to develop morale with your peers, or maybe you're a college professor listening to this right now and you have to teach a 2-hour lecture and you need ideas to keep your students engaged, right? So you can incorporate some activities into your lectures or some games into your lectures, and you need ideas, you can reach out to Dr. Shapiro. Again, I'm going to give you his main website, www.educationbyentertainment.com. He is also on Facebook. He has well, I can't see it all here, but he has several Facebook accounts. So Education by Entertainment is on Facebook. He also has his own Facebook page. So I encourage you guys to follow him on all of his Facebook accounts, visit all of his websites, and he is also on LinkedIn. So he also has 2 LinkedIn accounts as well. So it's a lot of information. So pay close attention, you guys. But all of this information will be in the description. So, however you are taking in this episode, whether you are watching it on screen or you're listening to this in your car or, as you're washing dishes or wherever, this information is in the description. So, I encourage you to seek out his services and visit all of his websites and follow him on all of his social media accounts. Dr. Shapiro, is there anything else you'd like to share about your business?
Well, one thing I'd be glad to share is if you don't remember all those websites, this one is unforgettable. www.funfunfun.fun. Just remember that one and you'll be fine. Fun, fun, because what we do is so much fun. When we get comments back from people at our programs, they say, uh, the program was fun. So we bought that URL the second it became available, literally, and or else we wouldn't have gotten it. And so just check us out, fun. We'll be happy to help you, bring a program to you wherever you are in the English speaking world. We'll be glad to talk with you by phone if you just need an idea or two for your programs. Whatever we can do to be of help, we'll be glad to do that for you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity, Gabrielle. And we'll catch up with you next time.
Of course, of course. And and just to clarify again, so you do you you deliver so you deliver some kits, right? And
Well, I'll be glad to talk with you on the phone and or on the like we're talking now and go over what our activities are. And if you need some materials and stuff, I'll send them to you. Whatever you need, I'll be glad to help out.
then you also do like in-house entertainment, like
Right,
going to,
yeah, right. The main thing I want to do is in-person programs, but as a courtesy, if I'm in Rhode Island, if you happen to be in, Alaska, and you say that sounds interesting, but I just need three activities, and I can't afford to bring you across to Alaska for three activities, I'll talk to you on the phone and help you get going so you can do them.
do you want to share your phone number or just
I
direct them to?
can, sure. 401-272. 4664. That's 401-272-4664. Leave a message because if I don't recognize your number, I will not pick up most of the time. I will wait until it goes to phone mail. I'll hear your message. I'm calling you about the games programs. I'll call you back. If it's somebody trying to sell me Medicare coverage, I will not call them back. And I get lots of those calls every day, and I have no idea why. I'm already very happy with my medical insurance.
All right, one more time. 401.
272 4664.
272-4664.
Yep, there's lots of symmetry in the number.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So if you guys happen to be in Rhode Island, he does do in-person entertainment, so reach out to him. But for everybody else, you know, he does provide if you need activities, he'll get them to you, or he'll consult with you about things you can do to
Well, I'll
like,
go out there and do them for you.
or you do it for them.
Yeah, I'm glad to travel anywhere, as long as it's in the English speaking world, because that's the language I speak.
Oh, so you do go to people outside of Rhode Island.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I've been to Sydney, Australia doing programs.
Oh,
I've
interesting.
been to the Netherlands doing programs. So, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I thought you were
I've,
just limited to Long Island. Okay. I mean Long
no,
Island.
Rhode
Rhode
Island. No, no, no. I've done programs in most of the states, not all, but most.
Island. Okay. All right. So listen, if you're looking for some in-house entertainment, reach out to Dr. Shapiro. He may come out to your city, so make sure you just clarify that with him. But if you just need an activity, you don't necessarily want him coming out, but you just need an activity or an idea or just something that he could just ship to you, or even just a consultation, you can contact him as well. So we got 4 websites up on the screen, 3 Facebooks, and 2 LinkedIn's. He also gave his phone number. So I'm just gonna read that one more time. It's 401-272-4664, and I will put that in the description. So, there's so many ways that you could reach out to Dr. Shapiro. So if you need any of his services, whether in person or by delivery, um, reach out to Dr. Ron Shapiro. All of his information is scrolling below at the bottom of the screen. For my video people and for my audio people, all of this information is in the description. All right, Dr. Shapiro, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to place you backstage now. And it is closing. Oh, excuse me. It is now closing time, you guys. So thank you for joining me today on Hot Topics. So I just want to take this time to remind you that Hot Topics is a production of my company, A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So, as we're talking about learning and memory retention, if you are a parent and your child is struggling with remembering things, or just they keep, I hear it all the time too, they get it when it's in the session, but you ask them 2 or 3 days later and they forgot, right? So if your child is having any issues with retaining information, retaining facts, reach out to us. We can help you. Our tutors are available to help you, or maybe you just want to find ways for your child to be engaged. There's children out there that maybe have a short attention span. And so it's like, all that talking is not going to help, but you got to find ways to engage them a lot more. Our tutors can help with that as well. And, we also work with adults. So maybe there's a college student or a professional that just, needs help getting things going and they can't do with all that talking. They need more activities, they need more fun, they need more ways to be engaged. Reach out to us. Our tutors can help with that as well. So if you need any of that, whether it's for your child or even if it's for yourself, reach out to us. Our website is www.astepaheadtutoringservices.com. You can email us at success@astepaheadtutoringservices.com. You can call or text us. I strongly prefer that you text us, but the number is 347-762-2838. And you can find us, reach out to us on our multiple social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Eventbrite, and WhatsApp. So you can find us on our multiple social media platforms and, reach out to us there as well. You can send us a direct message. I also encourage you to follow us on social media as well so you can stay in touch with us. So there's so many different ways that you can connect with us, like how there were so many different ways you could connect with Dr. Shapiro. There's a lot of different ways that you can reach out to us as well. So if you are looking for any kind of academic help, or you need some assistance with, helping your child learn, or even just helping you learn and helping you focus more as well, and you're looking for more engaging ways to do that as opposed to the typical lecture, um, no shade on that, but sometimes, some people need a little bit more engagement, a little bit more brain stimulation. So if you need that for yourself or for your child, reach out to us. Let our tutors help you. Once again, the website is www.astepaheadtutoringservices.com. I also want to take this moment to encourage you guys. Please leave your feedback about this episode for today. Let me know what your thoughts are on this episode. Drop a comment in the comment section below or in the comment thread. Give us a rating. Give us a star, 5 stars. However you are taking in this episode right now, drop a note, drop a comment somewhere. But please leave your feedback about this episode today. I definitely will appreciate your feedback, and it definitely helps us in terms of the algorithm, excuse me, and it helps people find us. So the more that you comment on our videos, the more that you comment on our podcast, the more it shows up in search results and the more people find us, because popularity sells. So the more that you comment, the more it shows up in search results and the more that people find us. So please, please, please drop a comment. Let us know your thoughts. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Whatever it is, leave your comment in the comment section. We will appreciate your feedback. Very, very much appreciated. All right, you guys. Well, that is it for the episode today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I look forward to you tuning in at the next episode. Thank you guys again. And now I am signing off. Oh, I just froze. Whoa. Oh, I just froze a little bit. All right, there I am. Bye, you guys.